an appeals court said, no, Mr. President, you just can't forcibly detain those who are illegals from being shipped back to wherever, or to sort of get the special colleague protection here. It'll likely go to the Supreme Court. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says it's really not the president's job to enforce these laws or to rewrite them, and that was the message from the court. But, Governor, do you worry then that if it goes to the Supreme Court, which has given the president some of his biggest victories, that it would give him this one and that change forever our views on deportations, whether anyone is shipped back, whether they're all welcome here? What do you think?
Well, Neil, let's start at point one. Point one is that it was this month last year when the president issued his executive order granting amnesty on his own to people in violation of the current immigration laws. There was only one entity that stepped up to stop it. It wasn't the United States Congress. It was the state of Texas. My last act as the Attorney General of Texas before I became governor was to file this lawsuit to put a unilateral stop to the president's unilateral issuance of an executive order rewriting the immigration laws of this nation. And I feel very confident that the United States Supreme Court would rule consistent with the trial court and with the Court of Appeals that the president was far beyond his authority by unilaterally issuing an executive order granting amnesty. This is guaranteed and provided to the Congress under the United States Constitution,
you're right about
not
that.
the president, to make laws about this.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, Governor, but I know enough about this president just sort of bypassing the law. And the fear seems to be that even when a prior court had ruled, whoa, you're going too far, you just can't stop deportations, I assumed that in the interim some deportations were going to resume, and that didn't happen. So I'm worried now, in light of this court ruling, whether it's the same deal. And even if it's the Supreme Court, that nothing will change, because it was the same Supreme Court that said when it came to the Environmental Protection Agency and others, you've got to consider the cost of these new rules and regulations. And yet, what does the administration do? Push more rules and regulations for which it is clearly not considered cost. So I guess that's a highfalutin way of saying they ignore courts.
Well, first, you are clear in pointing out that the Supreme Court actually has stopped applying the law and has begun to rewrite the law, which is exactly what happened in both of the Obamacare cases. You know, John Roberts showed that Nancy Pelosi was wrong when she said we had to pass Obamacare to find out what was in it. We had to wait to see what John Roberts was going to write about it to find out what was in it. But to your point about this, this is slightly different than the word that you use. This case does not involve deportation. It involves whether or not the president has the unilateral authority to rewrite the immigration laws to grant amnesty. And if the Supreme Court
I conflated the two, and that was but to make the point that in one or the other, it's the same deal. In other words, that the president will ignore existing immigration policy.
And I'm telling you this, Neil, and that is if the Supreme Court overturns the Court of Appeals and gives the president this authority, what the Supreme Court is doing is saying that henceforth the Congress is completely irrelevant because the president now has the authority to write whatever laws he wants to write. And that completely undermines the Constitution of the United States of America.
Boy, but won't that be a kick, though, Governor, if right as he leaves office, the Supreme Court has given him a green light on this? Let's say a Republican comes in. I'm sure you hope a Republican comes in. All bets off.
Well, I'll predict two things will happen if the Supreme Court does that. First, you will see a massive revolt in the United States of America that's had it with regard to the Supreme Court and the president assuming and consolidating among themselves all the powers of this country. And I think that it will guarantee the election of a Republican as the next president.
Well, we'll see. Watch. They might time it just right after the November election. I don't know. That goes. Governor, thank you very much. Governor Abbott. All right, we're getting more details on this plan now.